People sometimes outside Chicago have this perception that Chicago is gangland, where there's gangs shooting out on the corners.
Yeah.
It's not really that, is
No,
it?
it's not really that. So, a lot of the, very little of the violence turns out to be like my gang is trying to retake that drug selling corner. But, I think there's a widespread sense that the gangs do play an important role in a way that you might not expect, which is helping get guns into the hands of kids. Right, because like you're a 16-year-old kid on the south side of Chicago. There are no gun stores in Chicago. You can't go to a gun store yourself and buy a gun. How do guns get in the hands of 16-year-old kids? And I think gangs might play a role in that, but then how the kids use them is where getting into these arguments and.
That's fascinating, because how the guns get into people's hands seems to me to be huge, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. From an outside perspective, I'm British. You were born in Europe.
I was born in Germany.
But I don't know if you have that sensibility. But from an outside perspective, what you notice about America, what seems to be driving that is just the availability. Like you say, we all have our moments when we fly into a rage. And you recount in the book several times when you've been in that situation.
Embarrassingly so.
And I think, okay, well, we have to read the book to find out more. But you even say at one point, thank God I didn't have a gun at that moment. So there's a quote that struck me from your book. It's not that a gun causes altercations, but placing a gun in the middle of an argument greatly increases the chances that someone winds up dead. So it does seem to me like what makes a place unforgiving, which is the title of your book, is the availability of guns. And you quote this statistic that 50% more guns on the streets is estimated that would double the number of shootings, and more people die from self-inflicted gunshot wounds than from homicides in America. So why isn't the book all about availability, which is something that I understand has been talked about a lot, and as you recount, not much has been done, but why don't you focus on the availability rather than the psychology?
Yeah. I think it's because I started my career studying gun control and gun regulations, and then I stopped because I just got too depressed. There's just so little movement in gun regulation in the United States. I have come to characterize myself as almost a pathological pragmatist, and it is such a heartbreaking problem in Chicago and every other American city, and also in many ways like an existential threat to these cities. Steve Levitt, who we mentioned before, former University of Chicago colleague, wrote a paper showing that every murder reduces the city's population by 70 people. That's one of the important reasons why Chicago has lost 1 million people since 1950.